Hey, thanks for buying your miniature wheel kit. After you unpack your kit, it should consist of 10 pieces. First and foremost is the wheel. Then there should be a sponge and a small bowl for throwing, a plaster, board for reclaim, a metal rib for scraping your work off the wheel, some clay, although there'll be more than that, and 3 separate tools. At least 2 should be double-sided. So you should have 2 wooden tools and your metal tool and a wear board. So let's see, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. This miniature wheel is USB, so you can use the USB plug if you want, but it comes with a regular adapter so that you can plug it right into your outlet. Before you get started, I would recommend putting down a sheet of newspaper or plastic to protect the table, as the water can spray outwards. All right, so let's get making so we can explore the use of these tools. Those who have thrown on the pottery wheel before will find that it's not too difficult to adapt to throwing miniature. You can throw in 2 ways. You can throw pretty solid objects that you later carve, or you can properly pull the piece. I'm going to show you how to properly pull the piece because your toolkit comes with a sponge on a stick on one side, but a throwing stick on the other, and that throwing stick will allow you to place well, what would have been your finger inside. One thing that's very important is the clay. When you work on the miniature wheel, it's as you know, it's USB. You want to use a small amount of clay, no more than maybe you know, in a large acorn size. And the clay needs to be very soft. If the clay isn't soft, you'll want to add water to the clay and kind of work it until it's just dry enough to hold together, not too wet so that it slips. Okay, so before we start, we want to plug the wheel in, and then on, turn this all the way to the right, it spins, and then to the left it slows down, and off. You're also going to need some water for the basin. Each kit comes with a little bowl and comes with a sponge too, so that you can have something to work with here. You can keep this up here or down here. So I'm going to take this clay, I'm going to add a little bit of water to it because it's a little bit dry. I'm just going to add a couple of drops, kind of squish it up. It's a good idea to also have a rag nearby so that you can dry your hands or have an apron on. So the clay is really tacky now, and I'm going to kind of squish it up. Into a little ball or cone shape, and I'm going to stick that to the wheel head. Now when you throw in these mini wheels, you always kind of want the base to be flared out, otherwise the piece can fly off the wheel. Okay, so I stuck the clay on here. I'll turn this on. Now if I add too much water, it's all going to fly off, so I don't want to add too much water. And if I push too hard while I'm trying to center the clay, the wheel will just stop. So you have to make sure that you're not too forceful. It's a very delicate apparatus, but what's nice is it'll give you some very sensitive hands. And you can always, if you're having trouble centering, you can always kind of remove. So there's a lot of carving involved with the miniature throwing. So I could just kind of like carve away the part that's not centered. So I could place any reclaim clay I have on my plaster board, and then I can wedge it up in the future. Okay, so I'm going to start throwing here. I'm going to put a little bit of water. So one of the tools is like a pointed needle tool with a beveled side. Sometimes I use that to open the piece. Sometimes I use the throwing stick, because again, the throwing stick that looks like a little tiny golf club is basically a replacement for my hands and regular size throwing. So what I'm going to do is push down, drop the hole, and then I'm going to reach in with this stick and pull out towards me to open it up. Okay, so now I have a nice, now I have a nice squared out inside. Now I can do a lift. I can use the sponge. The sponge is ergonomic. It tapers down so I can pinch like this. Use the sponge on the outside, or I can use my finger, and I'm going to use the throwing stick on the inside. Make sure everything's damp. And what I'm going to do is together I'm going to press and move up so that I can lift the little tiny pottery. Let's go in for another pull. I'm going to slow the wheel down. It doesn't need to be flying so quickly. Again, when it's going really fast, also water is expelled all over the place. So I'm bracing both. I'm bracing with my pinky, my left hand, and my right hand is rested on the wheel here. And I don't want it to be too narrow on the bottom again. If it gets too narrow, the whole thing kind of flies away. And at the top, I'm going to ease off. One of the big differences of throwing with the small wheel is I don't really compress the rim. Instead, I just cut it off. So again, the tool with the point, I can use that if the top gets rough to kind of just slice off the top and clean it up. So that's what you want to do instead of compressing, is you kind of want to just remove clay that's not in line. Okay, the next thing you can do is shape. So I'm going to take the throwing stick again. Well, before I shape, let me use the I can take the miniature sponge on the stick and insert it to suck up all the liquid that's inside the pot and remove that. Again, I'm going to take my throwing stick, again, like a miniature golf club, now that the water's taken out from the inside, and I'm going to shape the pot. I'm going to go in with the little stick, and I'm going to press out against the wall and move up and back down again and give it a form. And then if I want, to bring it inward, I'm going to just take my fingers and collar in. Four fingers might work a little better than two. Okay. Needs to be popped out a little bit more now. So I'm going in, gonna give it a little bit of put some volume in there. Okay. Now, I'm gonna just kind of shrink it down again. Anyway, shaping is very individualistic. Can also I'm not satisfied yet. I'm gonna go in for another give like some volume up here, higher up in the shoulder. So after you pull the piece, it's really just shaping. And remember, no compression. Instead, I'm gonna remove the clay on top that's not behaving. Okay, so now another tool that comes with the kit is this cleanup tool. So the cleanup tool is a curved metal side. There's sometimes something pointy on the other side, but we really want to focus on the curved side. What I can do now is I can carve away the extra clay that's down on the bottom. So spinning the wheel, I can take this tool and just remove clay. I can also use another tool that comes with the kit instead of doing this. I'll show you in a second. So this is a big difference between throwing miniature and throwing full size. You don't need to keep a piece super wide when you're throwing full size, but because these spin faster than the clay can support sometimes, you want to have a really stable, strong, wide base, pretty much until the end. There's another tool that comes with your kit. The opposite side of the needle pointed tool is beveled, so you could take that bevel and simply place it against your pot and press in, and what it's going to do is it'll conform to the shape of the tool and give your pot a nice undercut. Okay, let's see, it looks okay. A little bit of a not continuous curve though, but you could also paint these while they're still on the wheel if you have brushes and small brushes. Okay, so whenever you feel like you're done, you're going to turn off the wheel and you're going to take your wear board, which also comes with the kit, and your rib. Usually we're used to ribs as smoothing. In this case, the rib is going to be used to remove the pot from the wheel. So what you want to do is you want to just carefully slide it underneath your pot, and sometimes I also turn the wheel as I go to basically transfer it onto the rib, and then you want to transfer it onto your board. Sometimes to make removing it a little easier, I'll take that pointed tool and hold it and slide the rib out. Okay? And then you have your itsy bitsy teeny tiny pottery. So that's pretty much it. I hope that was clear. I believe we used every tool. We got the wheel in there, the pointed tool, the bevel side, the sponge and throwing stick side, this tool, sponge and water, and the plaster board. This may not seem important, but it's a great way to recycle the leftover clay. You could also sit your pots on here if you didn't want to have them on the wooden board. Now you let your pottery dry out and come back to us for our firing services, and it's a fun new hobby. Thanks guys, we'll see you soon. Bye.